Gentleman from Virginia.
Mr. Speaker, I have an amendment at the desk, number 93, which would restore funding for the Washington Metropolitan Area
Clerk
Transit
will read
Authority.
the amendment.
Amendment number 93, printed in the Congressional Record, offered by Mr. Connolly of Virginia.
What purpose the gentleman from Georgia rise?
Point of order on the gentleman's amendment.
Point of order is recognized. Gentleman from Virginia will speak on his amendment.
I'm sorry,
The gentleman from Virginia will speak on his amendment for 5 minutes.
I thank the Speaker, or the Chairman, and I offer this amendment on behalf of myself, Mr. Hoyer, Mr. Moran, Ms. Edwards, Mr. Van Hollen. In his final term in Congress, my Republican predecessor, Tom Davis, helped broker an agreement to boost Metro funding by the federal, state, and local governments. Under this agreement, the federal government invested $150 million annually to be matched by Virginia, Maryland, and the District of Columbia. This investment is essential for our region. It has provided WMATA with funding to begin fixing the safety problems identified by the National Transportation Safety Board, which will cost over $1 billion cumulatively. It also is essential for the federal government to function efficiently, even as the federal government fails to pay its fair share compared to local and state funding for Metro. Finally, unlike any other transit system in America, our Metro system serves 12 million tourists annually who come to visit their nation's capital. The federal government relies on a functional Metro system. Mr. Chairman, over half of all Metro stations serve federal offices, and 40% of the entire federal workforce uses Metro to get to work every day. As Congress itself noted when passing the National Capital Region Transportation Act in 1960, an improved transportation system of the National Capital Region is essential to the continued and effective performance of the functions of the government of the United States. From September 11th to the blizzards from last year, we've learned through hard experience that Metro is essential to move people both through severe weather and emergencies in our region. President Obama included the $150 million that my Republican predecessor's authorization bill called for in his budget, but the Republican leadership removed it in this continuing resolution. Perhaps my newer colleagues have not yet had a chance to visit Northern Virginia, where Metro Rail extension to Dulles Airport is spurring billions of dollars in private investment while providing thousands of jobs for the construction workers building the rail line. If my colleagues had visited this project, they might hesitate to eliminate investments like this, which will be repaid many times over by subsequent private investment. In recognition of the importance of this Metro funding, I introduced an amendment on behalf of my colleagues and myself to restore $150 million in federal funding, which would be matched by state governments. To offset this expense and reduce the deficit, I proposed offsetting the expense by cutting direct payments to large agribusiness. As we debate this bill, there are people at work building rail to Dulles, and if the Republican majority succeed in passing appropriations bills such as this, those transportation projects, jobs, and real estate investments will be a thing of the past. One step we can take to reduce the damage done by this CR is to restore this critical Metro funding. And Mr. Chairman, I reserve my time.
Gentleman cannot reserve. Gentleman yield.
I do.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from Georgia.
Mr. Chairman, the amendment, and I will speak on it a little bit.
Gentleman speaking on the point of order.
That's right. Yes, I'm speaking on the point of order.
All right. Point of order.
Mr. Chairman, the amendment proposes to amend portions of the bill not yet read. The amendment may not be considered en bloc under Clause 2F of Rule 21 because the amendment proposes to transfer funds between the subcommittees. And here's what's going on. You're mixing your operating and your capital funds on this particular account, and this committee does not have jurisdiction over those accounts. And I want to point out that the subcommittees work very hard to balance all these very difficult cuts, and we're trying to work within our 302B allocations. We're in a situation right now, for every dollar that we spend as a U.S. government, 40 cents is borrowed. A lot of that money is borrowed. I'm speaking to the point of order.
And wish to be heard on a point of order. Gentleman from Virginia.
Mr. Chairman, I deeply regret that my colleague would invoke a point of order. As I said, the Metro funding, in this case, he talks about difficult decisions. This zeroes out the entire federal amount of subsidy for capital construction and safety improvements from a system that is over 30 years old, reaching capacity, and serves first and foremost the federal workforce.
To the point of order.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
The gentleman confine his remarks to the point of order.
I can't hear. Oh, I thought I was speaking to the point of order and the points made by our
Your
colleague.
remarks need to be in reference to the point of order, not your amendment.
As I said, Mr. Chairman, I deeply regret the fact that my colleague would cite a point of order on a bill of such importance to the National Capital Region.
Does anyone else wish to be heard? To be considered in the non-block pursuant to Clause 2F of Rule 21 and Section 2 of House Resolution 92, an amendment must propose only to transfer appropriations among objects